Well, there certainly was widespread pandemonium among social media users across the globe as Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp simultaneously went dark on Monday. The apps, which are all owned by Facebook, crashed for several hours, and this led thousands of users to flood Twitter to complain about the outage and ask questions about why it was happening in the first place. A lot of questions, of course. Here to answer some of them, joining us is tech analyst Carmi Levy. Carmi, great to see you. A lot of questions I have, but let's begin with the obvious. Do we know how this happened in the first place?
We do. Facebook said while it was going on yesterday, they said it was some kind of network problem. They shared additional details afterward. Basically, it's a software update gone bad. They were making changes to what's known as their Border Gateway Protocol list or system, which is essentially the address. It's almost like Canada Post. Every device on the internet has an address. Every company has to maintain that list. And shortly before the report circulated of the outage yesterday, we noticed that suddenly all of Facebook's addresses had disappeared. So essentially, a small update cascaded out of control, quickly became a global problem. The next thing you knew, all of their services were taken down. This is really little more than some pretty significant human error.
Well, no kidding, because you have these three major companies, which are all owned by the same company, supposed to be, or at least they say, are supposed to be separate. But I want to get into how fragile the whole social media network is. And what does this say about how fragile it is?
It's a lot more fragile than it needs to be. Facebook has always sold itself as an engineering-first company, but clearly outages like this give lie to that. And I think that, the company needs to look inward, and also other technology companies need to look at their own architecture and go, are we also vulnerable? Obviously, Facebook trying to save money by putting a lot of systems on common platforms. But unfortunately, they're not well protected from each other. That's why we saw all of their services go down yesterday. And not just Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, but also the badge system that controls employee access to their buildings. They came back. They weren't able to get into the building to troubleshoot the problem. So clearly, a lot of people at Facebook today have a lot of questions to answer for. And I think the industry also needs to reckon with itself. Are we trying to do too much? Or maybe should we be putting more resources into better architecting, better protecting our systems against this kind of thing?
Apart from being inconvenient for a lot of people and maybe frustrating, talk about the implications around the world.
They're significant. We tend to laugh at, oh, it's just Facebook. I won't share cat memes for a few hours. But the reality is a lot of businesses rely on this, and those businesses went dark yesterday. Similarly, WhatsApp is a lifeline for people in less than democratic parts of the world. They use it because it's fully encrypted so that governments can't peer over their shoulder. They can communicate with the outside world, with each other, without being, for fear of being spied on. Well, you lose that ability, then you can't communicate. You go dark as well. So these are absolutely critical services. We've only had social media for about a decade and a half, but in that time, they have become crucial to so many of us. There's no joke when they go dark.
Talk about the other big story, and of course the timing couldn't be worse for Facebook when it comes to the whistleblower who came forward talking about how this company knew that it was spreading misinformation, did little to stop it. And then there were the leaked documents last week that came forward that, Instagram knew about the impacts on social media or on mental health for teens and did a little to stop that. These are the allegations. Talk about the implications for this.
Well, I mean, it's significant. It's almost like, the day went from bad to worse for Facebook. There's no technical connection between them, but culturally, they're very directly related. Facebook has been playing fast and loose with the rules to try to drive growth. Their engineering clearly isn't up to snuff. Their culture is all wrong. They're putting profit ahead of morals and ethics. And unfortunately, the rest of us are paying the price. Frances Hogan's testimony, she'll be in front of Congress today. Essentially, she's not saying anything that we haven't heard before. But what's different here is that she's got the smoking gun. Before she quit in May, she had a whole bunch of documents that she was able to share. This is the proof.
Lots more on this story to come. We appreciate your insight, as always. Carmi Levy, tech analyst. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.